He's Rick Tyler.
And he's Dan Cashman.
And I'm Dr. David Cloutier of the Veazie Vet Clinic. And I'm on the Ric and Dan Show.
In Maine, we often hear,
"You can't get there from here."
These are the stories of the risk takers,
The trailblazers.
those who turn obstacles into opportunities
every day and found their way
to get there from here.
And today,
There on the Ric and Dan Show. From dogs and cats to people and friends, you see everybody on a daily basis. Dr. David Cloutier, what keeps your drive alive?
Great question that I love answering to all the new, maybe going to be veterinarians, people that come in the clinic. And that is people. Everyone thinks that you become a veterinarian to take care of animals, but the real answer is it's a people business. I kiddingly say, no animal ever came into the Veazie Vet without a human being. There was once a blue jay. I was doing surgery and he flew into the surgery window and knocked himself out. But he still didn't get in without a human. I had to take my technician, send her out to go get him and bring him in. And we had, official cause of death was surgery window. But yeah, so the point is that it's people. It's really a people business.
now you have a drive-through.
Yes, absolutely.
Dogs and cats, but I've even seen an emergency operation on a snowy owl at the Veazie Vet Clinic.
Yes, we've done tundra swan. I've had a Maine black bear on my x-ray table.
Wow.
Was it a member of the hockey team or?
No, we've had those too. But no. So Inland Fisheries and Wildlife uses our facility some for their different wildlife that come in. So we're part of the bear project and part of the moose project and the lynx. All kinds of things end up.
Have they brought in a moose to you?
No. Although there was some talk of a baby moose maybe heading our way, but I don't know. I'm not sure what hospital.
Because a full-grown moose.
Yeah, we're going to have to have bigger doors for that. Yeah.
How did the black bear get in? They didn't go in the front door, did they?
Didn't fly in
Sit
through the window
waiting
like the
room?
blue jay.
So we have a great arrangement with IF&W. They come in sedated, so they do not.
The wardens or the bear?
Yeah, well, but they don't. They definitely are not walking through the door. They're coming in snoozing on a stretcher.
Sure.
Unfortunately, a bunch of years ago, there was a nuisance bear in Bangor that had been shot, and its jaw was broken, and so they need to decide what to do.
Yeah.
So
That's rough.
Bad news for that bear, but.
Well, who shot the bear and caused the jaw to be
It was actually the owner of the bird feeders who the bear was feeding on. And yeah.
Did the guy that had the firearm get the bill?
IF&W gets the bill. We have a
Way back when you were a wee lad, what was your first entry into deciding that veterinarian might be the job title that goes along with your personality?
So it was a snowy day. The veterinarian came out to do what's called gelding our horses. So that's the neutering procedure for a horse. And
we're all crossing our legs now.
Yes,
here in the
yeah.
podcast
So
booth.
I'm still recovering.
I'm in 5th grade, and my prior occupation that I thought I wanted to be was a priest. Then somebody said, well, they don't marry. And I said, oh, that's not going to work out for me. So I started looking for something else. And so this picturesque event of 3 horses tied to the corral and the veterinarian giving them their anesthesia and gelding them and the dogs running around in the snow. And I was like, this is really cool. I got to do this.
Really?
Yeah.
And how did you pursue the dream from there?
So decided that I'd try to volunteer at the local veterinary hospital and got myself in there.
And where was that?
That's in Bolton, Connecticut. There's a large hospital in Bolton, and they did large animal and small animal, so I got to do a little bit of both. And the more I did it, the more I liked it.
You had horses. Did you have a love for animals kind of throughout?
Yes. I can say that my desire to be a veterinarian was not driven specifically by my love for animals.
I have a niece who wanted to be a veterinarian for a short time, and then she realized that you can't always have a positive outcome with all of the animals that you treat, and she abandoned
can't save them
that.
all.
Can't save them all. So
Right.
she abandoned that pretty quickly. So that's that's my line of questioning, sir. How did you get from that experience with the horses to knowing this might be something that you really want to pursue?
So the other part of that answer was my dad was an engineer and worked for a large company, and I wanted to work for a small company where I could be an entrepreneur, although I didn't know what that was when I was that age. What I wanted was to have my success or failure be resting on my shoulders and be determined by what I do. So I wanted to own a small business and have my efforts kind of directly affect what the outcome was versus working at a really large place where that's harder to do.
That's a big lift, isn't it?
Yes.
To operate the place, manage the place, especially with the level of growth that we've seen at Veazie Vet.
Yes. I'm not sure how fast that happened, but that was my original, like, that's why I want to be a veterinarian more than I want to save every dog or every cat or things like that. I wanted to own a small business, and that seemed like kind of a neat one to own. And so that's a bizarre start for most veterinarians.
Did you pursue the business kind of track, or I would imagine you would have had to have pursued the veterinarian track when going into higher education, because that's a pretty specialized set of skill sets.
Yeah, so I took absolutely no business classes whatsoever and went to University of Maine in pre-vet program, animal science and pre-vet, and so all of the animal science type classes. And then applied to veterinary school, went to veterinary school. Veterinary school does absolutely no business classes whatsoever.
Sure.
So it was on-the-job training.
Did you feel that not having as much of a business background as you maybe wanted to have, but still pursuing the dream, was a bit of an obstacle you had to overcome?
It was an advantage. So as people get to know me and Veazie Vet, we do a lot of things very non-traditionally. So I've, since being a practice owner, been to veterinary business school, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So Purdue University has a business school for veterinarians. And as I talk to different veterinary owners, they're always like, why do you do it that way? Or how is it that you manage your staff in a way that's different than everyone else? What school did you go to, or what business book did you read? And my answer is always, I didn't. And that's the advantage.
Sounds like you wrote the book.
Maybe. No, there's a different book out there, but yeah.
It's interesting you said that it wasn't an obstacle, it was an advantage. Do you see obstacles as opportunities?
Yeah, so every obstacle is an advantage. So great example is at our hospital, everybody has 6 weeks of vacation. Day one coming in, you accrue your PTO at 1 hour per 12 or 13 hours worked. It works out to 6 weeks vacation. And it was like, well, how can you do that for everybody? Mm. And if you look at the end goal, which was, I want everyone to have a great work-life balance. I want everyone to enjoy working there. Why is it that you have to work for 20 years before you get more PTO? Like, it just didn't make any sense to me. But that's the norm. That's what businesses do. The longer you work, the more PTO you get. And so how do we end up just giving everyone 6 weeks? Many, many years ago, I had 3 staff members who are hitting the 20-year mark and we're going to get 8 weeks of vacation. And I'm like, why do they get 8 weeks and everyone that starts out gets 2? And they've been here a long time, so they're at the top of the pay scale. So their 8 weeks are really expensive. What if I hold them at 6 and take the money that I would have had to pay them? I could probably give everyone 6 weeks. So when I ran the numbers, it wasn't far off. If we took that 8-week category away and made it 6 weeks, everyone could afford it.
Guessing that's really helped with employee attraction and retention?
So the problem was, what about those 3?
Yeah.
So immediately one of them was going to quit, a 20-year veteran. And so she went out and looked. She was a receptionist. A couple of weeks later, maybe a month later, she said, can I have a little time at the staff meeting? I want to tell them about my experience. Because the best I could find here in Bangor was minimum wage, which is half of what she was making, 2 weeks vacation and no health care. And we do 100% health care, 6 weeks vacation, and twice minimum wage.
Wow.
She's like, so I was really mad that I couldn't get 8 weeks, and now I'm really happy that I'm here.
Wow. That is.
But that's not in a business book, right?
No. Was it that moment of those people starting to get 8 weeks vacation that triggered this in your mind, or had you always had it in the back of your mind? What else can we do?
No. So that was the moment. I'm like looking at those individuals getting 8 weeks and thinking, that's such a vast difference. Why are we doing that? They're already making more money. They're getting a significantly higher 401k contribution. And so why do they deserve, or, why are they worth more PTO time? Because you have some new people who are just phenomenal, doing a great job, and yet they're going to have to wait all these years before they get that reward.
I know you network with other vets. When they look at your business model, do they scratch their head and look at you and say, what are you thinking?
So they kiddingly call me the European veterinarian. So I facilitate a veterinary management group. So there's 20 veterinarians who are mostly in the Northeast from Pennsylvania to Maine. Yeah. And so we're always talking about things like this. There's actually a message on my phone about staff benefits from one of the veterinarians in that group that came in today. So we're always bantering about these things. And they do scratch their head and look at me and go, so you pay 100% of healthcare for all your team. Yep. Nobody does that. 6 weeks of vacation. Nobody. That's not typical. We have a pet care benefit. There's a bunch of things that we do that are not the norm, and yet we still manage to be financially viable. Very financially viable.
My last job was one of those jobs where you start at 2 weeks, you advance. And I was thinking at some point I'm going to have children, which I now do, and I'm going to want more PTO now than when I'm older. When they've moved out, I don't have as much, need for it in theory. In my young mind, I was thinking this. You've kind of flipped that. What else are you hearing from your employees about other things that you've done that might have been obstacles that you turned into opportunities?
So a bunch of years ago, several of the local veterinarians had an IRS audit. According to IRS rules, I cannot discount services to my team by more than 20%. This is a tough one for veterinary staff. So they bring their cat in because it's sick. And if I x-ray it, I have to charge them for that x-ray. I can discount it 20%, but I've discounted more than that. It's income to them.
To the IRS.
So I need
in their eyes.
In their eyes. I need to declare that as revenue to that staff member. And you're like, well, how big of a deal is this? Well, they're veterinary technicians, so they all have 3 dogs, 4 dogs. And so their veterinary costs are kind of high, but I can't give it to them for free, or I have to find some way around that. So ran into this veterinarian from Alaska who had this idea, and they call it pet care bucks. So we have a allotment, and it's at our hospital now, it's $150 per month per employee that goes into their pet care buck account. So then their cat comes in for an x-ray, and they're charged for the x-ray, and then that account reconciles that. Now, granted that I still discount at 20%, but they still have to pay the taxes on that as additional, income or revenue to them. So the next payroll that's reported to them. What if it's a really big surgery, like a $2,000 surgery, and had $2,000 of pet care bucks? They don't want it all cashed in that because it's $2,000 added to the next paycheck, so it's a huge deduction. Tax, So they're like, "Ooh, can we divide that up?" So it allows us to be IRS compliant, provide a benefit for our staff that's equivalent for everyone. And so it works really well. It's unique. We had to draft it, have our accountant look at it, make it IRS compliant. But again, it's one of those things where all you do is skip the book and the class and say, what am I trying to achieve? I want to be IRS compliant because I don't want to get audited and have to pay. I want my staff to get their pets cared for. And I want it to be equitable for everyone. Just dream up something that works and do it. So we have a lot of things like that we do.
I've seen you be a mentor to a lot of vet students. They come to Veazie Vet, ran into you in public, and there was someone who looked like a formal interview with the notebooks and the pens and all of the questions. And I'm like, I'm not going to bother you right now. Why do you do that?
It's fun. Hopefully some of them will come back and work at Veazie Vet. So we have this pipeline of people who are likely coming. I had a young woman, Ava, who scrubbed in with me and did surgery with me all day today. She's just graduated from the University of Maine. She's going to do a year with us while she's applying to veterinary school. We have Izzy, who just got into vet school. Peyton last year got into vet school. So we have all of these individuals. UMaine's right around the corner, so there's a lot of students in pre-vet. And we give them these opportunities. Some will come work for us, but some will go work for a friend of mine. So it doesn't, we're paying it forward.
Izzy took care of Clark.
Yes.
Clark the cat needed some attention.
Izzy's a very smart young lady. I think she got into like 11 veterinary schools.
Wow.
I snuck into one.
I'm sorry. I wear loud headphones. It sounded like you said you snuck into one.
Squeaked. Squeaked.
Snuck. Did they know you were there?
Oh, yeah. They knew I was there.
It sounds to me like you had sort of this business acumen in mind before you even started in veterinary school, based on not only what you wanted to do, but maybe things that you had picked up along the way.
Yeah, so we had a little family farm tractor. So, of course, you start plowing snow in the wintertime, and then we had a chainsaw, so you cut up trees. And, there was always these, whatever little entrepreneurial business I could come up with, I did. And, now looking back, it's like, yeah, if someone would pay me, I'd do it. If it was legal.
Do you deliver papers as well?
No, that was that's too much boring,
Working for the man.
Yeah, it's working for the man. I'm not working for the man.
No. Where did that drive come from?
I have no idea. Just kind of was there.
Not from your parents, not from uncle?
They all. So the truth is, I have a cousin, Bob, who's quite a bit older than me, in upstate New York. There was a Hunter Mountain ski area was there, and he noticed when he was there that they needed their driveways plowed. So he bought a truck and started plowing driveways. And then he's like, they all have fireplaces. They need firewood. So he started a firewood business. And he's like, they don't really have a way to get rid of their trash. So he started a trash business. And every time he went to that mountain, he had another idea. And eventually he decided he wanted to take advantage of the oil boom, moved to Houston, and started Top Hat Chimney Service. He has the distinguished honor of cleaning the chimney in the White House, and then which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then he started a fence company, and he has 2 restaurants, and he just every year starts a new business.
And
so
did he ever take you aside and say, or did you just watch him?
I rode in the truck. I sometimes got to throw the trash in the back and, hold his coffee while I plowed. Bob's like probably 6 or 7 years older than me. So watching him do all of that, I was like, that's pretty cool. I'm doing that.
Veazie Vet, the physical plant, has grown over the years.
Yes.
It's had to.
I kiddingly say it's kind of like the Governors in Stillwater in Old Town. It has like 9 editions on it. Yeah. Yeah.
And now the separate entrances, unless you're going to build up, and I don't know what ordinance allows you to do. I'm curious about what's next on trying to add to the physical plant as Veazie Vet continues to grow.
So Veazie Vet has 11 exam rooms, 3 surgeries. It's a pretty sizable place right now.
And when you started?
2.
Wow.
Yeah. So our treatment room was also our surgery, was also x-ray. So we had one area that we kind of cared for the animals and 2 little exam rooms. So we were 1,500 square feet originally. We're 10,000 now. Yeah. I'm not sure I look at other pieces of property around us every time I think about, do we need to be bigger?
Looking at that gluten-free bakery across the street.
Maybe, someday, who knows?
I don't know this to be true, but I believe I see solar panels right past the parking lot at Veazie Vet.
Yeah. So, you said every obstacle is another opportunity. So a friend of mine was building a hospital in Rhode Island and did geothermal wells. I thought that's kind of a cool idea. So I got the estimate for geothermal wells, and it was like $350,000. I'm like, doesn't seem like that's a great return on investment. So our contractor said, why don't you heat the building with heat pumps and put solar panels up? And I'm like, wow, our electric bill's like almost $3,000 a month. Good idea. So originally we were going to put them on the roof, and he's like, you don't have enough roof for all of that. So that giant bank that we have that we try to mow all the sumac that grows on, I'm like, why don't we just cover that with solar panels? So that's what we did. Oh. So that pays for our heat, but also our cooling, a lot of air conditioning. You get a lot of dogs in there panting. And there's 50 people in the building, so there's all the people heat too. So
that was a question we had about the number of employees and how that's grown over
a lot. I'm learning all their names. There's a lot of We recently hired 5 new technicians, and all of their first names begin with A, and I'm like, Alicia, oh man, I'm in big trouble. So interesting. Another one of our benefits is we pay for everyone's scrubs, but if you're a receptionist and it's a sweater, so we buy those clothes. It has to be within a certain color palette. It has to have Veazie Vet's logo on it. It has to have their name embroidered on it. So we put all these orders in for their clothes. Everything's embroidered, and so they look professional. We're paying for their clothing, and I then can learn their names.
I brought my cat Bob in, and I was there with a friend of mine and just tagging along. And they said, how did they all remember the pet's name so well? I know there's a chart, but I feel like when you see so many different animals throughout the day, Bob is going to be Bruce, and then it's going to be Billy, and you're not going to know which is which. How do you do it?
Then it's Billy Bob. Yeah. So there's a couple of things. We have some staff that are just so good at remembering names, and I'm not. So one of those people. So I'll go out front and I'm like, I can't remember that client's name. Pretty sure he comes in an old Volvo. 9 years ago, he had that old sheepdog, and he always has those kind of weird boots he wears. They're like, oh, that's Rick Tyler. I know that guy.
But that's surrounding yourself with the people that you know are going to be a part of what you want to do and accomplish.
They love playing the game of, so you're walking in and your wife called and said, when Rick comes in with a cat, can you make sure he brings some cat food home? So they'll see you walking in and the bag of food's already there.
Yep.
And they'll know your name. They're like, oh, you're here with Noir, and you're supposed to be seen in room 2, and Elizabeth called and you're supposed to have this bag of cat food.
Do those employees, I know you mentioned a moment or two ago that you do a lot in working with students, and maybe there's a hope that you're creating that pipeline that they're going to come to you. Do you find that these employees that are helping you succeed, are they coming to you, or do you have to go out and find them?
Both. So we are very fortunate. So part of what makes a veterinary hospital work and be successful is the veterinary technician team. A veterinary technician, or a licensed vet tech, or LVT, is basically the equivalent of an RN. So they've gone to school for somewhere between 2 and 4 years, taken a licensing exam, and maintain a license. So they're like an RN, except for they work on animals. The ideal ratio is 5 technicians per veterinarian. So that's how we can see a lot of patients and take care of a lot of patients, is have 5 of them working with us. Luckily, there's a technician school in Bangor at UMA. They have to do 2 7-week rotations their senior year. We put a lot of effort into trying to get all of them to rotate through Veazie Vet so we can encourage the ones that we think are a good fit for us to come work for us. So we have 2 that just graduated a couple weeks ago that's just started.
I was going to ask, why are you doing this here? It sounds like with your business sense and your passion for what you do, you could be doing this anywhere, maybe closer to Bolton, Connecticut, but you're here. It sounds like the University of Maine is right there. UMA is right there. You're in a pretty sweet spot. You've got not only the customers coming your way, you got the employees coming your way.
I can't take credit for doing that on purpose. So I will say that I met my wife, Janet, at the University of Maine freshman year. And when we graduated, I said, there is no way I would ever live in Bangor, Maine. It's cool to visit. I would never live there. And now I'm, 35 years here, and I love it. So part of it's Pushout Lake. Our family cottage is on Pushout Lake. And so I came here and was like, I don't know, maybe we could work here. And then 35 years later, I'm still here.
What was that leap like for you to start the business?
So full disclosure, didn't start it, but Chris Miles was there. So it kind of went like this. At the family cottage, water skiing with some friends.
Barefoot?
And, maybe. Yeah. We could have been barefooting. And they're like, there's this lady in Veazie and has this little vet hospital, Veazie Vet. You ought to go check it out. And I'm like, I don't know, not Veazie Vet. I'm not going. So they kept hounding me about it, and they're like, she's looking for someone. And so the legend is that I showed up in a wet bathing suit, and that's they were shorts and they were dry. So flip-flop shorts, dry shorts, and a T-shirt. I go visit, and I was like, well, this lady's kind of got a nice practice here and doing a great job. And so I visited a couple of times that week, and lo and behold, I ended up coming there and working. And after a couple of years, she was like, this is really going good. We do pretty well together. We want to be partners. So we were partners for about 10 years. And then she said, I kind of grew into something more than I wanted. Will you buy me out so I can go do something else? So I did. And so that's kind of how it went.
So what was that leap like, buying her out? Was that something you had thought about and it was just an easy switch to turn on? Or was that full of hesitation and fear?
No. So I was at the point where I really wanted to bust it out. I really wanted to blow it up and make it big. And she really didn't want to. So one of the two of us had to go. And so for her to be able to say, I just want to go do something small, that was nice for her and for me to be able to make it into what I wanted. And we also kind of had different visions where she was very much a structured numbers driven person and I'm a very not structured numbers person. So it worked out well to separate. I did almost bankrupt the business by not paying attention to the money part of it. And so you do have to actually pay attention to that, I learned. So at one point, that crisis moment where I'm like, oh boy, we're in trouble. Fortunately, my wife worked for a bank and I said, geez, maybe you should work at Veazie Vet and help us with the money a little bit. So she did that part.
You told me this story about you have a mentor that guided you in through that period. I don't know how much you want to talk about that.
Yeah. So Larry McCormick founded this management group that I mentioned that I now facilitate. And he passed it to me about 15 years ago. And so I had met him in this group and boy, it guided me so much, through that buy-sell period. It's really hard on people. And, any two partners, as you're dissolving a business, there's all of these things that come up and boy, everyone makes them into so much bigger of a problem than they need to be. So Chris and I were negotiating this 50 items and she wanted all 50 of them in her favor. And so I'm riding around Lake Winnipesaukee in Larry's little wooden boat. And he's like, well, how important are these 50 items? And I'm like, I gotta admit, I don't really care about 49 of them. He goes, then give them to her. And if you really care about the one, keep the one. And so that's what we ended up doing.
And so many years later?
Yeah, so now 15 years later. Those I don't even know what the 49 items were. Like, they're long gone.
And Veazie Vet is thriving.
It seems to be there every day when I go in, yeah. Yeah.
This is a tender issue, and you talked about it on the radio, and I don't know if everyone heard it, but I was surprised to learn how emotionally perilous the job of a veterinarian is.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a crisis in our profession, actually. So burnout, suicide, people leaving the profession at just alarming rates. So there was a time veterinarian and the profession was this revered profession that like rated number one to join. And now it's really changed where the stress level and veterinarians are really just many of them disenchanted. And for me, my comment to that would be, I think you're doing it wrong. I love the profession as much as I did when I graduated in 1988, so a long time ago. And you feel it. You walk through the door of Veazie Vet and it's like people are having fun and people are enjoying what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And you alluded to it earlier when you said, not every case is successful. Well, none of us love euthanizing a pet, but when you do that, it's usually because the pet is old and sick and you're relieving their suffering. So do I feel really sad about that? I'm still helping the pet. What I feel sad about is when the owners that bring them in, I've known for 30 years and our kids go to school together and they're all crying. That's sad for me. That's hard. But for their cat, I didn't have a personal attachment to their cat. I have one to them. So the emotional part for me is helping that family through that. And then you reset back to normal. But for a lot of veterinarians, they just get so caught up in, the minutia of all that there is out there. And they just end up really unhappy in the profession. And I'm thinking, it's a pretty great profession. Why did you end up there? How'd you end up?
How do you explain that to the many, many kids that come and work with you that you're mentoring?
Yeah, so Ava and I had that conversation today. So we used a laparoscope to do a couple laparoscopic procedures. And of course, if you really want to thrill them, you hand them the camera and they get to drive that around and look and appearing on the big screen on the wall. And so I said, here, one of the problems that is Veazie Vet's a fun place and this is really cool, all these things we're doing. And the people that are working with us are having fun and there's music playing and the dog's going to do well and go home and the owners will thank us. And it's pretty cool. Not every place is like that. So she's like, I know. I've been in some other places. So you would think all veterinary hospitals would be these really fun places and there's puppies and kittens running around and everybody's really happy. Unfortunately, no. So it's like any other business, like same as you guys. You guys have fun with what you're doing, but not everybody that does this has fun doing it.
At one point, you'd said a phrase to distributive, or is it, some medical term, business term, or medical term. What is it?
Teal management. So 15 years ago, I buy my partner out and I'm trying to figure out how to run the hospital. I mentioned she was more of a numbers, black and white kind of driven person, and I was not. Yeah. So right around the time I attempted to bankrupt the practice by not paying attention to money, I was trying to figure out how to run it. And I read a book, If Aristotle Ran General Motors by Tom Morris. My wife actually bought it like secondhand for me. Yeah. And there were some phrases in there that really hit me where, isn't it time that we start to focus on the human beings that work in a business? And then I read Stephen Covey, I read the Dalai Lama. I started on this kind of it's now been called the mad journey of innovation, and trying to figure out how to run the practice, not Wharton School of Business or anything like that. So I started coming up with these ideas where you involve people and you just look at each problem from the person's side and figure out what to do. So I started to evolve all of these things. Well, lo and behold, there's a whole group of business owners that have done this all over the world. And we are thinking, pretty well known, that over time we're changing the way that businesses function in the world. And there's it started as red and then green and orange and now teal. So teal management or distributive leadership has been studied by a lot of people, but Frederick Laloux wrote a book called Reinventing Organizations. And I was like, holy cow, there's actually like a whole movement of people doing this. And there's 3 basic premises that all of the businesses he studied all over the world, he's from Denmark, and there was, a gear company in Italy and a pump company in Brazil and Menlo in Chicago. And so all these different companies. And there were 3 basic premises. The first one is they tore down the organizational pyramid. So every business has that top-down pyramid, one person at the top working their way down. And so this organizational chart of hierarchical management. And you throw that away and it gets replaced with a giant spider web of how everyone interacts, but there's no boss. And there's no C-suite, and there's no management. And so you get rid of all that. The second part is called wholeness, where you just let people be who they are. And, when you walk into Veazie Vet, there's not a real uniformity. There's tattoos and ear gauges and different clothes, and people are acting like who they are, and they show up with who they are. And the third part is you get rid of all of this predict and control. Every business does their KPIs, their key performance indicators, and they have a budget, and then these quarterly meetings to see if we're meeting our budget. And the evolutionary purpose is what replaces that. Where it's called sense and respond. Like, what do I think the world needs in this moment? And then you respond to it. And that's what we did during COVID. So COVID hit and every hospital in Maine just closed down and said, I'm going to take care of only my clients. And Veazie Vet had just finished an edition. We had a great staff. And I'm like, what? All these people that are here with their pets need someone to care for them. Couldn't we just find a way to care for them? So we sensed this huge need and responded to it in some innovative ways to allow that to happen. So that's sense and respond. So distributive leadership is our management way of doing things, and very unique to veterinary medicine, but also just to business in general.
What was the phrase you just said? What does the world need right now?
Yeah.
What was the phrase?
Yeah.
In a business perspective.
Correct. Yeah. So rather than try to create a need, why don't you just sense what the need is and respond to it?
We explored what drove you in the business sense, but I am fascinated by your ability to seemingly easily say that challenges are opportunities. And I don't know many people that can say that with a straight face. I did have a boss at one point 20 years ago that said, he didn't use the word challenges. He said, there are no problems. There are only opportunities. And I try very hard to subscribe to that. And sometimes I can't. How do you do that so, again, seemingly effortlessly?
Some of it's surgery. So I do a lot of difficult and complicated surgeries. So 2 surgeries today were large tumors, and one of them on the backside of a cat. So it's in between the 2 openings in the back, and this is big. It's a big tumor, and another one on a dog. And in those cases, what you do is you just cut the tumor out with complete disregard for how are you going to put it all back together when you're done. So you need to get the tumor out, you know where the vital structures are, and you want to get good margins around it. So you just start cutting it. You just take it out. And when it's all gone, then you look at what you have and you put it all back together. And some people get paralyzed with but when I take that out, what's going to be left and what are we going to use to put it back together? And I'm like, I don't know, because we can't see it now. We'll see it when it's out and we see what you got. So, here's all of those things where you're like, well, this could be a really big problem because I'm going to have a really big hole in the back of the cat that we have to close.
A third one.
Yeah, a third one now. And you just take what you're presented with, and sometimes it works out really well.
You ever turned a client away?
I love that question. Almost never.
Because I'm thinking of Dorian Gray and the file with the red sticker on it.
Yeah. So some veterinary hospitals have this. This is crazy, but some of them have clients are 1, 2, and 3. We have our grade A clients, our grade B, and our grade C clients. And some veterinarians think it's a badge of honor to brag about how many clients they've fired from their practice. Oh. And I'm like, wow, that's weird, dude. So occasionally, if we're at a management conference and I feel like the mood is right for it, if someone's kind of bragging about it, I'll stand up and say, hey, afterwards, come see me. I'll give you a whole bunch of Veazie Vet business cards. Every client you fire, give them one of my cards because I'm going to make a lot of money off them. And they look at me like, And I'm like, most of those clients that you get really frustrated with are people who just really want their animals cared for. They're stressed. They're worried, can we make them better? They're worried, can I afford all this? Or they're having trouble understanding your treatment plan. Mm. So they're behaving in a way that you decide is, not appropriate for your practice, and you fire them. And I love those clients.
I would like to state for the record that I don't think that either Elizabeth or I did anything for us to want to be fired from Veazie Vet Clinic. Dorian Gray, however, was just...
And Dorian Gray was your kitty.
Yeah. Elizabeth picked her out. Bangor Humane Society. I had a different cat, and she said, I like this one. And so we ended up with that cat instead. Boyfriend and girlfriend at the time, and I wasn't about to say no.
Was it really that long ago?
Yes.
Wow. So since we're going to tell tales out of school, now's the time. We might as well do this.
Okay.
So... for a lot of owners, they've never seen this fight or flight response. So they know their cat is this loving cat that they pet, and they've never seen that basically wild animal side of them. And the look on Ric's face, he was cowering in the corner.
It's right in the corner of the room. I remember it.
Yeah, if you could have actually, I'm not sure about fetal position. But if you can stand in the fetal position, the look of horror on Ric's face as his cat turned into this wild animal.
Just beastly.
It was.
And I'm like, who are you?
What Ric doesn't know is that's a daily occurrence for us. And
really?
No, not that much. We deal with a lot of difficult cats, but also really aggressive dogs. And so for some people, those are a challenge that frustrates them, that ruins their day. And in my world, that's, can I find a way to work with this animal that no one else has, that allows me to successfully do what I want to do? Nobody loses any fingers, no workman's comp claims, the animal's still alive, and the owner's like, wow, that was pretty cool. I've never seen anyone be able to do that. So, and the same challenge applies to that really difficult client. And the staff actually now, I think they take bets out back. So if someone comes in and they're just really hot, they're like, let's send Dave in there and see if he can do his thing. And they're like, this guy's refused every possible treatment and he's not going to pay. And they're like, all right, let me go. And to me, it just, can I find a way to connect with that individual, get them what they need? And so for some people, that's an annoyance and it makes them not like their job. And to me, that's this great opportunity to see, can I somehow find a way to connect with that person and make it work? And we pretty much always are successful.
Another challenge that becomes an opportunity.
Right.
I sense a theme.
Yeah.
I had a cat, Bob. You treated him beautifully. He was 20 when he passed. But when I first got Bob, I was 22, and I didn't know how to feed Bob. So I gave Bob all the food till he was full, and then I'd give him more food.
He's big Bob.
Bob put on a couple of pounds before his 1 year visit, and
This was when you were 22?
22 or 23.
So it's quite a parallel between the way that you ate and the way that Bob ate.
Right.
Well, back then I was in my thin Oprah phase, so so it was different.
All right.
But Bob, so I didn't. But I got to say that the way that your staff, even back then, treated Bob and me, because I had so much guilt about it when they were like, "How much have you been feeding Bob?"
How many pizzas?
was tremendous. And I think that, we talk a lot about the veterinarian skills. We talk a lot about the business skills, but you mentioned it at the very beginning. It's people business.
Yes.
And I needed that in that moment because I felt terrible. Like I had done the worst thing possible to this cat. And your staff was right on top of it, making Bob, I think they were feeding him, but then making me feel better about what I perceived that I did wrong.
It's something that, as the owner of the practice, it's up to me to set the tone. And there's a negativity bias and there's a positivity bias. So I will come out of the exam room where someone's kind of grumpy or been deemed, a harder to deal with personality. And I usually will think of something like, well, I wonder, or a piece of information will come to me like he lost his wife or is something in their life that was a negative. And I'll say, I kind of feel bad for him. He's having a tough day. And I heard this happen or that happen. And so all of a sudden, the next person that goes in that room sees that individual differently. So I try to give them the positivity bias where they're looking at them in a positive light based on that information. And the number of medical professionals who will come out of an exam room and go like, wow, that guy's just a jerk. And I'm like, well, how do you think my staff's going to treat them when I have deemed them unworthy of my time and compassion? And I've not verbalized that, but that's kind of what I did. And then the rest of the team treats them poorly. And geez, it's weird that the whole thing went really negatively. Can't figure out why.
Remember a moment ago you told us that you originally wanted to be a priest. Hey, Dan, this is your chance to get forgiveness for the way that you cared for Bob.
Right.
Well, I also wanted to be a priest.
It's true confessions. Did you really?
I did. Yeah. I wanted to be a priest and a game show host, and neither one panned out.
You're doing a combo now. Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. I do serve communion here at the office every now and then. People think it's kind of weird.
Little sliced up pepperonis on the pizza.
Talking about?
I have no idea.
It's a good thing you can edit all this out of there.
Yeah, it's a really good.
Oh, no, that's staying in. That's going to be one of those things that he's going to be answering for years.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the Ric and Dan Show.
And thanks, Rick, for splitting a Pop-Tart with me.
What is it with you and Pop-Tarts?
I don't know.
If you like what you heard, don't suppose you'd click that subscribe button.
And maybe leave us a review on your favorite listening platform.
5 stars are our favorite.
And next time you hear someone say,
You can't get there from here,
you tell them to listen to the Ric and Dan Show.